Hi, this is Alex, and this is a new story on my channel.
The silence in my house has become a physical presence. It's a heavy blanket that smothers every sound, the tick of the clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the beat of my own anxious heart. It's been 34 days since my daughter, Lily, last spoke to me. 34 days of one-word text replies, averted eyes, and the quiet, deliberate closing of her bedroom door. The price of her silence? $200,000. The price of her voice? A degree in art history I refused to pay for. It wasn't always like this. God, it feels like a different lifetime. But I remember how proud I was of her passion. When she was 12, we took a family trip to New York, and I dragged her to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I was bored within 20 minutes, but Lily, she came alive. I watched her stand in front of a giant Jackson Pollock painting, her head tilted. She wasn't just looking, she was seeing. She pointed to a tiny drip of yellow in the chaotic splash of colors and whispered, "That's where he hesitated." I had no idea what she meant, but I saw a brilliant mind at work. I saw a future lawyer, a CEO, a president. I saw a sharp, analytical brain that could conquer the world. I just never imagined that the very thing I admired in her would become the weapon that would tear us apart. The bomb dropped on a Tuesday. It was a perfectly normal evening. I was chopping vegetables for a salad, and Lily was floating around the kitchen, buzzing with an energy she couldn't contain. She had that glow, the one she gets when she's about to share good news. "It came," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. She slid a thick, cream-colored envelope across the granite countertop. It was from a prestigious, private university, her dream school. My heart swelled with pride. This was it, the moment every parent waits for. I opened the letter and saw the word, "Congratulations." I saw the generous scholarship they offered. And then I saw the number that remained. The total tuition. $200,000 for 4 years. I swallowed hard, the pride instantly replaced by a cold knot of dread in my stomach. This is incredible, honey. But this price... I know, but it's worth it, right? It's the best program in the country, she beamed. I took a breath, trying to choose my words carefully. The best program for what, exactly? Her smile didn't falter. Art history, she said, as if it were the most obvious, most sensible thing in the world. I want to be a museum curator. I want to tell the stories behind the paintings. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline. There wasn't one. The silence that fell between us then was the seed of the suffocating silence I live in now. Art history, I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. Lily, that's a wonderful hobby. But for a career? For $200,000? Her face fell. The light in her eyes flickered and died. It's not a hobby, she said, her voice suddenly sharp. It's a legitimate academic field. It's my passion. I have a whole plan. I'm not paying $250,000 for a useless degree, I finally snapped, the words escaping before I could stop them. I've worked my entire life to give you a stable future, not to finance a 4-year fantasy. The words hung in the air, ugly and heavy. I saw the tears well up in her eyes, but she blinked them back with a fury that startled me. My dream is not a fantasy, she shot back, her voice shaking. You just don't understand because all you've ever cared about is money and safety. You don't even know me. Before I could answer, she turned and walked away. She didn't storm off. She just left. I heard her walk up the stairs, and then the soft, final click of her bedroom door shutting. That click was the last sound she willingly made for me, and the silence that followed has been screaming at me ever since. The first week was a battle of wills. I was sure she'd break. She's always been dramatic, but her anger usually burned hot and fast. I'd leave her favorite dinner on a plate outside her door, a silent peace offering. Hours later, I'd collect the cold, untouched plate. I'd send texts, trying to pretend things were normal. "How was school?" I'd ask. A single, sterile word would come back. "Fine." I sent an "I love you." I got back a thumbs up emoji. The cold, digital indifference was somehow worse than her yelling. By the second week, the silence had seeped into the walls, changing the very atmosphere of our home. It was no longer just the absence of Lily's voice, but the presence of my failure. My wife, Sarah, felt it too. She was caught in the crossfire, trying to broker a peace I was too stubborn to accept. "You have to talk to her, Alex," she said one night, her voice weary. We were sitting in the living room, the television on mute, both of us pretending to read. "I try. She won't talk to me," I retorted, my defensiveness on full display. Sarah put her book down. "You didn't try. You issued a verdict. You called her entire future useless. What did you expect? Did you even ask to see this plan she mentioned? A plan to be unemployed and $100,000 in debt? That's not a plan, Sarah. It's a prayer," I scoffed. "And what was your dream when you were 18? She asked quietly. The question blindsided me. I wanted to be a photographer. I had a decent eye, a beat-up old Minolta, and a portfolio of black and white photos I was intensely proud of. I also had parents who told me to be realistic. I became an engineer. I provided. I was a success." "That's different," I mumbled. "The world was different then." "Was it?" she asked, leaving the question hanging in the air between us. Her words gnawed at me. A plan. Did she really have one? Fueled by a desperate mix of guilt and a burning need to be proven right? I did something I'm not proud of. I waited until Lily left for a study group, and I went into her room. The invasion of privacy felt sickening, a betrayal on a whole new level. But I had to know. Her room was neat, but her desk was a chaotic hub of passion. And there it was. Not a piece of paper, but a thick, meticulously organized 3-ring binder with a simple label. The Plan. My hands trembled as I opened it. It wasn't a teenager's fantasy. It was a research project. There were spreadsheets comparing the curator programs at different universities, breakdowns of living costs, lists of potential internships. There were printouts of email exchanges with assistant curators at small galleries asking intelligent questions about their career paths. She had drafted articles for an art blog she'd started, writing sharp, insightful analyses of obscure Renaissance painters. It was brilliant. It was thorough. And it terrified me. My fear twisted my perception. I didn't see dedication. I saw obsession. I didn't see a plan. I saw a roadmap to poverty. This binder wasn't proof that she could succeed. It was proof of how deep her delusion ran. I was so engrossed, I didn't hear her come home. The sound of the front door opening jolted me. I had seconds. My instinct was to hide the binder, to pretend I was just putting away laundry. But it was too late. She appeared in the doorway, her school bag slipping from her shoulder onto the floor. Her eyes went from my face to the open binder in my hands. The color drained from her cheeks. "What are you doing in my room?" she whispered, her voice dangerously calm. I stood up, holding the binder like a shield. "I wanted to see the plan, Lily. To understand." I tried to sound reasonable, paternal. "And I do. I see the work you've put in. But honey, this is an obsession. These people you're emailing, they're just being polite. This isn't the real world." The look on her face shifted from shock to pure, cold fury. "You invade my privacy. You go through my personal things just so you can tell me again that my life is a joke." She took a step forward. "Get out of my room. Now." "I'm trying to protect you," I pleaded, my voice cracking. I was losing her, right here, in this moment. She let out a short, bitter laugh. It was a sound I'd never heard from her before. "No, you're not," she said, her voice dropping, but each word was like a perfectly aimed dart. "You're trying to protect yourself. You gave up on whatever you wanted to be for a safe life, and you can't stand the thought that I might actually be brave enough to follow my dream." She took another step, her eyes locking onto mine, and delivered the final blow. "You're not scared I'll fail," she said, her voice barely audible but echoing in the suddenly silent room. "You're scared I'll be happier than you ever dared to be." Then she turned, brushed past me, and walked out of the house, slamming the front door behind her. This time, the whole house shook. Sarah was standing in the hallway, her face pale with anger and disappointment. "Are you happy now?" she asked. She didn't wait for an answer. She just turned and walked away, leaving me alone in the hallway. I stumbled into the living room and sank onto the couch, the heavy binder still in my hands. The silence that rushed back in wasn't empty anymore. It was full of her accusations. My eyes landed on a framed photo on the mantelpiece, me and a 12-year-old Lily at the Met, her face tilted up at a painting, utterly radiant with wonder. I had destroyed that. For what? For being right? For the first time in 34 days, I admitted to myself that I had no idea. I don't know how long I sat there in the deafening silence, the heavy binder in my lap, Lily's accusation echoing in my head. "You're scared I'll be happier than you ever dared to be." Sarah was right. I had pushed her away. I had become the villain in my own family story. Unable to sit with the ghosts in the living room, I retreated to the one place where the past is allowed to be forgotten, the garage. I just needed to do something with my hands, to feel useful. I was mindlessly rearranging dusty boxes when my fingers brushed against one with "college" scrawled on it in my own teenage handwriting. I pried open the brittle cardboard flaps. Underneath old textbooks and a faded university sweatshirt was my old Minolta camera, and under that, a thin, black portfolio. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were my photos. Stark, black and white images of lonely city streets, a close-up of an old man's wrinkled hands, the shadow of a bird in flight. They were full of angst and ambition. I was 18 again, and this portfolio was my entire world. I remembered the burning passion, the certainty that this was what I was born to do. And then I remembered my own father, a kind but practical man, looking at my work and saying, "The world needs engineers, son. Photography doesn't pay the bills." I had listened. I had chosen the safe path. I had built a good, secure life. I had never been unhappy, not really. But had I ever been as happy as Lily was when she talked about art? Lily's words hit me again, but this time, they weren't an accusation. They were simply the truth. I wasn't just scared for her. I was scared of her bravery. I waited. It was nearly midnight when I heard her key in the lock. She crept in, trying to avoid me, but I was waiting in the kitchen. She froze when she saw me, her body tensing for another fight. "Lily, wait," I said, my voice quiet. I held up my hands in surrender. No more arguments. No lectures. I took a breath that felt like it came from the soles of my feet. I was wrong. That one phrase stopped her. She stared at me, her guard still up but a flicker of confusion in her eyes. "I was wrong to call your dream useless," I continued, the words tasting strange but right. "I was wrong to go in your room. Most of all, I was wrong for not listening to you, for not respecting you. It was arrogant, and I am so truly sorry." I let the apology sit in the air for a moment before I went on. "I still don't understand art history the way you do, and my fear of you starting life with a crushing debt, that's real. That part of me is a parent, and it won't change because I love you." I paused, gathering my courage. "But that plan in your binder is the most impressive, passionate thing I have ever seen. So here is my new offer. No more fighting. We become a team. We will research every single state university with a top-tier arts program. We will hunt down every scholarship, grant, and bursary on the planet. We will look at a double major, something that makes you even more unstoppable. I will not co-sign a loan for $200,000, but I will help you. We will find a smarter way. We will build a new plan. Our plan." She was silent for a long, long time, her eyes searching my face for the catch, the trick. Her anger was still there, a protective wall around her heart, but I could see tiny cracks forming in it. "Why?" she finally whispered, her voice hoarse. "Because I was in the garage," I said, my own voice thick with emotion. And I found my old photos. And you were right. I was scared. And I realized I would rather be broke with you in my life than be the richest person in the world in a silent house. She didn't run into my arms. She didn't say it was all okay. The wounds were too deep for that. But the hard line of her shoulders softened. She looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in what felt like a year. And then she gave a slow, single nod. Okay, she said. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. The space between us was still fragile, like a priceless vase that had been shattered and painstakingly glued back together. You could still see the cracks. But the house was no longer silent. She had said one word, and it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard.